Why do so many men wake up with a weight they can't explain? A hollow ache behind the eyes, like they were meant for something more. But the world keeps telling them to shrink, submit, and smile. What if I told you the truth? That the emptiness you feel isn't failure. It's your soul remembering who you were before the world lied to you, before your spirit was sedated, before masculinity was criminalized, before kings became clowns and warriors became workers. You weren't born free. You were born inside a spell, a ritualized illusion, an invisible matrix. They taught you love without loyalty, success without sacrifice, power without purpose, pleasure without presence, salvation without sanctification. This wasn't by accident. The world you live in is not neutral. It is engineered to domesticate you, emasculate you, break you, because a man who forgets who he is a man they can control. You are taught to be soft, sweet, safe, and ashamed. You were taught to worship the feminine while fearing your own flame, to bow to comfort, to obey to pleasure, to crucify your strength and call it virtue. But beneath all this noise, there's a whisper inside you that never died, a divine echo, a sacred memory, a fire that says, "This is not who I am." The veil is lifting, and you are about to remember who you were before the world told you to forget. The blue pill, the womb of the lie. They didn't enslave you with chains. They did it with comfort. Imagine a prison so perfect, so soft, so seductive that the inmates beg to stay. That's the blue pill. The dream you were forced to call reality. It is comfort sold as freedom. It is love with no loyalty. It is sex with no soul. Success with no sanctity. Pleasure with no purpose. It is the great lie that told you this is life. Somewhere deep in your bones, you know, no it isn't. Who fed it to you? Not by accident, not by nature, but by design. The blue pill was handcrafted, a globalist priesthood of anti-man, anti-life, people who want to destroy bloodlines, people who are at home nowhere and everywhere. They orchestrated this spell through 5 altars. Feminized public education. Boys are drugged, shamed, and reshaped into obedient little girls. Pornography, not entertainment, but initiation, a sacrament of slavery. Mass consumerism, purpose replaced by dopamine. Legacy replaced by lifestyle. Corporate chains, the cubicle as the new coffin. And media mind control. Hollywood, TikTok, Netflix, Disney, preaching that men are toxic, love is self-love, and masculinity is a disease. They didn't want you dead. They wanted you harmless, because a lion with no teeth is easy to pet. They wanted you programmed to learn to apologize for your strength, to laugh at your own leadership, to chase women who despise you, to hide your faith, to doubt your instincts, to numb your soul with distractions, dopamine, and Hollywood idols. The blue pill didn't just weaken men. It mass-produced hollow shells wearing human skin. Men who exist, but don't live. The Matrix wasn't fiction, it was prophecy. In 1999, Neo wakes up. The code shatters. A man realizes the world is fake, and he's not crazy for feeling it. But the world ignored it. It turned warning into entertainment, and it turned prophecy into memes. And we went back to sleep. But then something happened. a ripple, a shift, a rebellion. They didn't want comfort anymore. They wanted truth, no matter how brutal. And that's when they found it. The first fire, the red pill. Every man remembers the moment the lie shattered. Maybe it was a heartbreak, a betrayal, divorce court, a false accusation, a woman who said, "I love you," while texting someone else. Or just a quiet night, staring at the ceiling, realizing the world has sold you something broken. That moment was the fire. The scream beneath the smile. The fist clench under the wedding ring. The day the red pill entered your bloodstream. And nothing was the same again. The red pill didn't teach you how to seduce women. It taught you how you were seduced by the world. It wasn't just dating. It was about the illusion behind dating, behind love, behind power. It exposed hypergamy, the instinct that no one dares speak that women desire not men, but better men. Female solipsism, a lens that bends reality around her desire. Feminism, not about equality, but inversion. The throne, torn from men and sold to the masses as liberation. The sexual marketplace, not a place of romance, but a battlefield, a game where only the awake can survive. The red pill was not a tool, it was a torch. And when men lit it, they saw the world burning around them. And men saw the ruin of the West. They saw it everywhere they went. Fatherless homes, courtrooms that neutered you, women worshipped, men ridiculed, masculinity sold as pathology, simps raised as sons, divorced fathers destroyed by the very system they paid for. And in this chaos came the voice in the form of forums, YouTubers, podcasters, truth merchants standing defiantly at the ruins of the modern West. And they didn't speak softly. They roared because the time for manners had ended. It was war. However, this was knowledge without a temple. The red pill gave men the map, but no mountains to climb. It gave them knowledge, but no altar. It woke them up, but it didn't tell them where to go. And so some men used it to build themselves. They built their bodies, their confidence, their freedom. But many used it to burn their faith, their hope, their ability to love. The red pill didn't betray them, but it didn't save them either. Because truth without transcendence eventually becomes trauma. And so for some, the red pill didn't just set them free. It sent them spiraling into the abyss. For these men, the next step wasn't power. It was the black pill. It was looking into the void and seeing no God, no meaning, no woman worth loving, no future worth fighting for. It was awakening without ascension, truth without transformation, fire with no heaven above it. The black pill, the abyss. There's a kind of pain that doesn't scream. It whispers, it waits, it haunts. The kind of pain that comes after the truth, after the illusion is shattered, after the betrayal, after the red pill. When you look into a system and realize it really is rigged, it really doesn't care, and maybe nothing ever will. This is the black pill, not just despair, not just cynicism, but spiritual gravity, the collapse of all hope under the weight of truth without transcendence. The blue pill lied, the red pill revealed, and the black pill consumed. It offered no solution, only certainty, a dark gospel of doom. Looks are everything. Status is salvation. Women don't love. You're too short, you're too broke, you're too late. You were born to lose. And the worst part, it sounds rational, it sounds real, and that's why it works. It's not desperation, it's clarity, they say. But that clarity doesn't free you, it drains you, and then it kills you. And so a digital graveyard was born. Forums became the chapels of the damned, where young men mourned themselves before they were even dead. Algorithms fed them despair. Influencers peddled rage. And black pill prophets sold the death of hope as freedom. Suicide became the sacrament. And masculinity was no longer toxic. It was tragic. Men didn't scream anymore. They whispered. They disappeared. They ghosted their families, their dreams, and eventually themselves. It is the curse of the consciousness. The black pill says, you are awake, and curse for it. It is Gnosticism without grace, revelation without resurrection, enlightenment without eternity. You see the truth, but you see it alone. You stare into the void, and the void stares back, and it doesn't blink. You don't just doubt love, you doubt God, you doubt goodness, you doubt that any of this even means anything at all. The final trap of the black pill isn't that it tells you the world is broken. It tells you you were never meant to be whole. But then, from the ashes, something holy. Even in the tomb of despair, the voice still whispered, you were made for more. The fire of the red pill and the abyss of the black pill were never meant to be the end. They were meant to break the illusion so you could find what's real. And what's real is God. And what's real is purpose. And what's real is the path back home. This is not the end of your story. This is the final awakening. And that awakening has a name. The God pill. The resurrection of the masculine soul. The red pill showed you the lies. The black pill showed you the void. The God pill showed you the kingdom. The God pill, the holy reclamation. There comes a moment in every man's journey where survival is no longer enough, where knowledge, power, and even freedom feel empty without purpose. When the illusion is shattered, when the world is seen for what it truly is, and when the soul stands naked in the silence of truth. A question rises like thunder from deep within. Now that I know, what do I become? You've escaped the matrix, you've faced the abyss, and now it's time to ascend. You're not here to cope. You're not here to chase. You're not here to conquer the world while losing your soul. You're here for something sacred. The God pill is not a pill. It is a sacred tea in Eucharist. It's a resurrection. The God pill is not about going back to tradition. It is about transcending time. It is not old. It is eternal. The God pill is not an ideology, not a technique, not a brand. It is spiritual eruption, the collapse of all the false self, the death of the domesticated male, and the birth of the divine man. The God pill is what happens when Christ enters your masculinity, not to tame it, but to transfigure it. You don't become soft, you become sacred. You don't surrender power, you surrender to power itself, and in doing so, you're given the authority of heaven. It is the sacred form of Christ, the integrated masculine. The God pill reveals the wholeness of Christ, not just King of Kings, but lover of souls. Not just a warrior of Armageddon, but the magician who speaks reality into being. Not just the crucified, but the risen, radiant embodiment of holy masculinity. The God pill is the throne in the tomb, the sword in the scroll, the lion and the lamb made one. It is the fusion of the spirit, the soul, the flesh. Where the red pill splits you, the black pill breaks you. The God pill binds you back together. Spirit aligned with divine will. Soul healed from trauma and shame. And flesh mastered, not worshipped. You are no longer torn into pieces. You are rebuilt in fire, forged in silence, crowned by sacrifice. The God pill doesn't ask you to retreat from the world. It commands you to redeem it. It's not a monastery escape. It's a kingdom expansion. You are called to build an altar in your home. Lead with holy dominance. Love with divine ferocity. Fight with sacred precision. Speak with prophetic fire. And rule with cosmic humility. You don't need to be more alpha. You need to become anointed. This is your return to royalty. The God pill reclaims your crown from the culture that tried to mock it, the sword from the system that tried to dull it, the heart from the lust that tried to corrupt it, the mind from the algorithm that tried to reprogram it, and the soul from the nihilism that tried to drown it. This is not a lifestyle. This is a liturgy, a way of life infused with eternity. The God pill doesn't just teach you how to be a man. It initiates you into your divine design. You become the integration of the 4 sacred archetypes: the king, the bringer of order, the lover who offers devotion, the warrior who protects the innocent, and the magician who understands mystery. All united in the 5th and final form, the Holy Trinity within you, the Father, the Son, the Spirit, breathing through your being, crowning you in fire. This is not the end of the path. This is the beginning of the kingdom, and you are its cornerstone. The 5 archetypes, the blueprint of the divine man. Masculinity is not toxic. It is not fragile. It is not something to be redefined. It is something to be remembered. Before the world called you weak, before they medicated your power, before they told you to smile while everything you loved was burning, you were a soul forged in fire, a royal pattern carved into your very being. Not just muscle, not just instinct, but something ancient, something sacred. A divine blueprint, 5 doors, but one destiny. This is an initiation. This is the path of the God pill man. The sacred mask of the divine masculine. Every man is born with these archetypes inside him, not as choice, but as codes. They are not roles to act, but they are realities to awaken. The king, order, vision, law, divine authority. He does not dominate, he establishes. He does not chase applause, he builds legacies. The king speaks, and the world shapes itself around his world. He brings order into chaos, vision into darkness, and justice into decay. Where the king stands, chaos flees. Not a tyrant, not a narcissist, but a holy architect of destiny. The lover, devotion, intimacy, beauty, presence. He sees the face of God in a woman, not to worship her, but to call her higher self. He is the fire that purifies, not the flame that consumes. He does not run from love. He does not drown in lust. He chooses covenant over conquest and presence over pornography. The lover doesn't chase pleasure. He radiates presence. He is not passive. He is poetic. He doesn't just feel deeply. He gives sacrificially. The warrior. discipline, combat, courage, protection. He wages war for what is holy. He dies daily so others may live. The warrior is not angry. He is righteously dangerous. He defends the weak. He slays the dragons. He resists temptations. He sacrifices comfort for the sake of the mission. The warrior bleeds with honor, and he dies with glory. He is not reckless rage. He is a surgical fire. The magician, wisdom, revelation, inner alchemy, logos. He sees behind the veil. He interprets dreams. He breaks curses and reprograms bloodlines. The magician doesn't entertain magic. He channels the mystery. He speaks with divine clarity. He walks in spiritual awareness. He studies the world like a weapon and wields silence like a sword. The magician bends reality to truth, not the other way around. He is not a trickster. He is the seer, the scribe, the code breaker of heaven. The Holy Trinity, the integrated man. This is the crown, the convergence, the incarnation of divine masculinity. When the king governs, the lover loves, the warrior fights, the magician sees, and they all bow to the Holy Spirit within. The man becomes more than a man. He becomes the embodiment. He becomes the embodied presence of heaven on earth. He doesn't ask the world for permission. He brings heaven with him. He does not live by reaction. He lives by revelation. He is not torn apart by contradiction. He is fused by divine integration. The Holy Trinity is not just God above. It is God within. The Father, authority, order, law, the King, and the Son, love, sacrifice, incarnation, the lover, and the Spirit, fire, wisdom, presence, the warrior and the magician united. When a man awakens the God pill, the Trinity is no longer just doctrine. It becomes the living reality inside of him. He walks with the Father's throne in his chest, the Son's blood in his hands, and the Spirit's fire in his breath. He becomes the temple, the torch, and the trumpets, all in one. This is not balance. This is spiritual embodiment. This is not just masculinity. This is messianic alignment. There are many men worthier than me, but God offered me a gift, and I accepted it. That's when it happened. That's when He showed me the moment that changed everything. Some initiations don't happen in temples. They happen in the wilderness, not surrounded by stones, but by wind, trees, water, and the stars. It was Christmas Day. The world was inside sleeping, but I was being called, not by a voice, but by my thought. The mountains had been calling me for weeks, months, years, and that day I answered. I took nothing but the sacred tea, what I understand now as the Eucharist in disguise. It was an invitation to the Holy of Holies. I arrived at the lake, deep in the forest. The sun bowed, the cold had fallen, and the stars were watching. And I was alone, truly, fully alone. No audience, just silence, and the sky and the Spirit. And there, under the canopy of God, I drank the tea, not as a trip, but as a prayer. Not to feel something, but to meet someone. And the veil lifted. I looked into the still water of the lake and saw not my reflection, but my entire bloodline. My son was me. My father was me. And the love I held for my son, fierce, unconditional, eternal, was the exact love my father and my celestial father held for me. That realization broke me open, because I had never truly known that love was real until I saw how real it was in me. And then, like a flood of fire, I saw that my ancestors were with me. I saw that they had always been. My grandmother, who had recently passed, was smiling, weeping with joy, because I have finally found what she had prayed her whole life I would find: God. She didn't get to see it happen in her lifetime, but now she saw it in eternity, and so did my other ancestors, and they rejoiced because I had returned home. And in that moment, I understood the final mystery. They all live in me, and I live in them. I am not a man isolated in time. I am also an ancient ancestor to generations to come. I am an eternal bloodline, made flesh, a single living entity, the ancient one reborn, and the ancestors of future kings, lovers, warriors, and prophets. I didn't cry from pain. I cried from fullness. My soul was full. My heart was wide. My spirit was crowned. I had lived most of my life as a rationalist, an atheist, a skeptic, a mind without mystery, a body without belief. And now here I was, held in the arms of God. I was given a gift I did not earn, a revelation others more deserving had longed for. But God in His wild mercy offered it to me, and I accepted it. I accepted the gift. I accepted the calling, and I accepted Him. It wasn't a moment, it was a metamorphosis. My old self died, and in its place the divine masculine awakened. Not a theory, not a teaching, but a living, breathing presence inside of me. The king stood up, the lover opened, the warrior burned, and the magician saw. And at the center, the Holy Trinity roared like a lion through my veins. I was no longer becoming, I had been reborn. And that night under the stars, beside the water, with the sacred tea in my blood and eternity in my bones, the God pill wasn't just something I received. It became the moment I could carry. This is how it began. This is where the God pill was born. Not in theory, but in fire. And what comes next was the path He showed me for all men. A system, a structure, a way to initiate others into the same fire that saved me. A path forged by heaven. A map burned into my soul. And now I give it to you. The journey beyond time, the God who is everywhere. How far would you go to find out if God was real? To the edge of your mind? To the bottom of your soul? To the beginning and the end of everything? I went further. I traveled through all eternity itself, and I saw what most men only dream of, and what even angels long to look into. I was taken not by force, but by invitation to the first breath of creation, before galaxies, before atoms, before sound or shape. There was only a void, a silence so vast it had a weight, a darkness so perfect. It was not absence, it was a womb. But even there, something stirred, a faint light, soft, gentle, dancing, not a flame, not a flash, but a presence, and I understood. It was God. Not the bearded figure in the books, not the projection of our hopes, but a living light, older than time, alive with intelligence and love. And there I heard it, the music, the single note that became a chord, that became a cosmic chorus, Gregorian, celestial, echoing, eternal. But it wasn't just music. It was the word, the voice of God, singing all things into existence. Galaxies sprung into being from his harmonics, plants born from his syllabus, like fractured into colors from his tone. Creation was not a bang, it was a vibration, a song. And then I was taken forward, beyond every prophecy, beyond every star, to the last day of creation. The final moment, when the last black hole swallows the final spark of light. And even there he was, still singing, still present, still loving. There was no loneliness, there was no fear. There was only God, complete within himself, and yet full of affection for me. I tried to escape his love. I wanted to test him, to find a corner of existence where he didn't exist. If you were everywhere, I said, show me the place where you are not. So I journeyed to the furthest place, and still he was there. His love has no horizon, no expiration, no border. It simply was. I remember everything. In that moment, my mind collapsed into my spirit, and I remembered not just this life, but the ones before. I remembered the architecture of my soul. I remember that I was part of something infinite, older and larger than myself. I remember the reason I was born. I remembered my name, not the one they gave me at birth, but the one written in the books at the beginning. I remembered that I was loved before I existed, and that nothing I had done or failed to do could change that. I remembered everything. And then time returned, and just like that, the vision faded with the rising sun. The sound dimmed, the colors dissolved, and the veil dropped. And I was human again, mortal, breathing, walking back through the woods. But I wasn't the same man who entered. I was carrying something holy, something eternal. The echoes of that weekend followed me for days. In every face I saw the eternal soul. In every silence I heard the music. In every heartbeat I felt the light. But eventually, the world pulled me back. I returned to the rhythm of a man, but not the man I had been. I had touched eternity. I had met God. The war for the soul of man is not coming. It is already here. And most men don't even know they're fighting it because their chains look like comfort, their prisons smell like freedom, and their enemy's face is hidden behind a mask. The mask is a brand, a university, a Hollywood contract, a bank logo, a government grant, a dating app algorithm. The globalists are not kings. They are orphans on earth and in heaven, at home everywhere and nowhere. They want a world of rootless men, nomads with no honor, pleasure addicts with no mission, masculinity reduced to pixels, pills, passive income. Because a man with no father, no faith, no fire cannot resist them. The Manosphere was a necessary fire, yes, but fire alone doesn't build temples. It clears the ground. And now we build. The God pill is the final stage. This is not the return to tradition. It is the return to transcendence. We are not restoring the 1950s. We are resurrecting Eden We are not handing men a script. We are awakening them to a blueprint written in fire before time began. And man crowned in God becomes unconquerable. This is what happens when the gospel spreads. Pornography shatters, not because of shame, but because men see it for what it is, a desecration of the sacred. Masculine initiation restored. Fathers baptize sons in fire. Brotherhoods forged in silence. Rituals of passage beyond dopamine. And holy marriages, not contracts. Covenants. Kingdom-built unions. High trust, high vulnerability. God-sealed love. Fearless leadership. No more passive nice guys. No more tyrants. Kings who lead with vision, power, and wisdom. And fatherless homes healed, not by system, but by men who choose responsibility, discipline, and love. And false prophets silenced. No more charlatans sending coping disguised as courage. Only truth, only fire, only God. And the church reborn, not feminized, neutered, and ashamed of its own power, but fire-forged, spirit-filled, and roaring with sacred masculinity. You've swallowed the blue pill lie, you've choked on the red pill truth, and you've tasted the black despair. And now, awaken.